we've got some recent reporting from Dennis Dodd that is continuing comments that we even had going in the group chat, as athletic director Rick George has made it very clear that they are members of the Pac-12 now, and exploring any other opportunities. Well, that falls under, what athletic director Rick George has said, we have to do what is right for Colorado at the end of the day. He had some of those comments a few days ago, similar comments made to our own Dennis Dodd. Dennis's reporting indicates that Colorado has been in, quote, substantive talk with the Big 12 about possibly joining the growing league. A source with knowledge of the discussions tells CBS Sports multiple meetings in person to discuss the possibility of Colorado joining the Big 12. The Big 12 also has its spring meetings going on right now. Danny, when you're starting to, because you actually mentioned the Rick George quotes a few days ago, even before we had this recent reporting. So they're meeting in person. They're talking about potentially what might happen. What are you sensing out of the latest wave of conference realignment conversation?
So don't you feel like this is the first time there's been a little bit more willingness to embrace the possibility that it might include leaving the Pac-12? Like when he says we have to do what's in best interest of Colorado, that has not been what you've heard from other athletic directors or presidents of schools in the Pac-12. It's always been, don't believe what you read. We're committed to Pac-12. Let's, at least at the very least, a lot of them are saying, well, let's see what the rights deal looks like first. This is the first time it really feels like you've heard somebody say, no, we've got to do what's in the best interest of Colorado, which I think opens the door a little bit more to the very real possibility that they could leave. But I do think it's a game of poker, right? That they're all playing right now and I think George Kliavkoff has a really bad hand, right? And I think everybody kind of knows it. And Colorado's starting to show a little bit of their cards. Brett Yormark's already laid his down. He wants to be aggressive, right? He wants to try to acquire these, however many schools he can get. So I just think it's the first time you've seen Colorado show a little bit of their hand that they'd be willing to listen.
Can I just start with the one thing from Dodd's story that really stood out to me?
Please.
Before we even get into what Danny's saying, which is true. I mean, there has been some talk or some reading between the lines of comments that have suggested it's the case, but I also think part of the reason Colorado is saying this is because Colorado is one of the Pac-12 teams getting interest from the Big 12. But the one thing in Dodd's story that really stood out to me when I was reading it that really caused me to raise my eyebrows and be like, what the hell? Colorado will not make this move without the support of Deion Sanders. Why the hell does your football coach have any say in what conference your program is going to be playing in? I understand they've hired Deion. They've given him the keys to the program. They're hoping he can revitalize the program, and I get all that. But if Alabama wouldn't ask Nick Saban if it was okay if they could change conferences, Georgia's not asking.
Oh, yes, they would.
Well, no,
I disagree.
Why?
You don't think they would
be there in 4 years?
You don't think Bama would run it by? You don't think the president, the athletic director, and anybody else would run it by Nick Saban if he was cool with it?
Okay, maybe, but they're not leaving the SEC, so maybe that's a bad example. If this is why would you ask your football coach if it's okay to leave a conference? This is a long-term deal. Deion Sanders is not going to be the coach at Colorado when they reap the rewards if they leave for the Big 12. He has absolutely no impact on that. So if I'm in charge of the school and it's all right, we're going to go to the Big 12, we're going to get more money, and then Deion's like, no, it's oh, okay, I guess we can't go because the guy I hired and whose career I'm in charge of said no. That makes no sense to me.
Bud Elliott joining the conversation. Bub, can you hear us?
You guys got me?
Yeah. For now. Yeah. What's up?
Is it bad? Okay. My actual pod mic kept disconnecting it. I think Bama would ask Nick Saban, but I don't really think that they would make their decision based on what Saban says. If they would ask him, hey, what do you think about this move? How would it be for us competitively? Any kind of downsides? If you were a coach, would this make you not want to come coach here? Oh no, you still make $12 million a year. We buy your house and do a life insurance thing and get you up to $14 million. Okay, cool. I thought it was a little crazy that they're consulting. Mm-hmm. Well, if that's true, that they're actually basing it on what Deion thinks. That's nuts. I don't think it's crazy to ask your coach.
Well, your coach is going to be responsible for recruiting. You want to find out what the recruiting impact is going to be when you go from the Pac-12 to the Big 12. You also,
not this coach.
Well, listen, you have already
That's
decided that you're going to move university standards in order to allow this coach to thrive. Like, this is already unusual, and not in an unusual bad way. It's just we've already been breaking the norms of the athletic director, university head football coach relationship. So this, to me, is just another layer of that.
Yeah, but you didn't make those. I mean, they made those changes because of Deion. I'm not arguing against that. But if you wanted your program to thrive under any coach, you probably needed to change those rules. And if you want your program to thrive long-term because of financial reasons, it shouldn't be because you shouldn't need your head coach's full support. Now, publicly, maybe, you want him to say he supports it, and well, maybe he doesn't agree with it. But like Bud said, you can ask him about it, but he shouldn't have any say in what you're going to do about it, like the full support of it. But anyways, going back to, I guess, the original point, which was what Danny was talking about. Like, it is, I think the fact that Rick George, and they're kind of saying this publicly, is not the greatest sign for the Pac-12, because the other side of this is we've been hearing for months, oh, the TV deal is going to be announced in a couple weeks. It's going to be announced a month from now. And every time that deadline comes, it gets pushed back another month to where now it's been, in June, July. Well, tomorrow is June. Is there any rumblings of a TV deal being near? No, there are rumblings of Colorado's keeping its ears open for the Big 12. So I don't think it's a great sign for the Pac-12 television deals. Like Danny said, George Kliavkoff was dealt a bad hand, and he's trying to make the best of it. But at some point, you either lose all your chips or you fold. And I think that's kind of where things are headed.
Does Colorado need another partner? Is Colorado the first school, or does Colorado get grouped in with someone else? Is the fact that Colorado is out here on the forefront of the conversations, and we are not hearing as much from Utah, we are not hearing as much from Arizona, and we are not hearing as much from Arizona State, does that mean that they are more likely to go? Because we have grouped the quote-unquote four corner schools together, but there is not as much, momentum, at least in terms of the conversation, behind those other three as there is with Colorado.
They could bring them in separate. Where they're at what, 14 now?
Correct.
I don't know if going to 15 would work. I would think you'd want a 16th, but they're still talking. There were the rumors of we were gone last week. There were rumors that they're interested in UConn, which, okay, great. That's always a great sign for the Big 12. But it could be UConn. It could be the Gonzaga thing that they're doing for basketball, or that wouldn't be football. I don't know. I do think that it's still going to be the four schools that they're going after. Colorado probably wouldn't make the move without a partner. I don't know if the Big 12 would make the move without the partner. So I don't know. But the fact that you aren't hearing anything from Arizona or Utah doesn't make me think that there isn't stuff going on. I just think that right now with Deion in Colorado, that entire program is on display. Like, everything they're doing is a documentary for the most part. So it's going to be hard to kind of keep these things under wraps.
Don't you think if you're Yormark, you take one just to try to pressure the others if you have to, if that's the only option? Yeah, I think so too. Because then it's going to diminish their rights deal. Like, without one less school, they're going to get a weaker if you can get it done before that deal is on the table, before they see the offer, it's going to weaken that. So yeah, I think he would take Colorado, hoping to be the first domino.
When Missouri and Nebraska left the Big 12 and Colorado, they didn't go together. Obviously, they went to different places, but wasn't it a trickle effect? Like, one, then the other, then the other? It was a long time ago in, college football world, but what's y'all's memory of that? I was trying to put that into perspective here on the fly.
Nebraska was the first one, right? And then Mizzou, and then Colorado. I can't remember.
Like,
it all blends together. Yeah.
Because the Pac-12 added Colorado while they also picked up Utah from the Mountain West. And, Utah's the other one that seems to make sense. I don't know. I'm admitting my ignorance. What is the Utah-BYU relationship at the administrator level?
There's obviously a holy war.
Among the fans. But I'm saying, is there any reason why BYU would be uniquely motivated to keep Utah out?
I don't know.
I think it makes a good travel partner, and then you make it a like a annual rivalry game. But I'm not in Salt Lake City. I don't wear those I don't wear those colors. I don't understand what that relationship is like, but that's the other one where, to me, Colorado and Utah, bang, bang, makes sense. Colorado comes home. Utah is a travel partner for BYU. You expand so that you are still at 14 teams, even after Texas and Oklahoma leave. You probably have your eyes on 2 more so that you can get to 16 and match the Big 10 and the SEC. I think that is the end game for the Big 12. They want to have 16 teams. They want to be able to say that they've got as many teams as those other 2 conferences and, piece it together, market it as best they can. So that would be my prediction of where this ends. I just don't know when.
Yeah, you said Colorado comes home, and I think that's interesting because there has been the aspect of this of Colorado returning to the Big 12. The Big 12 Colorado would be returning to will look nothing like the Big 12 that Colorado left. Like when Colorado was last in the league, they were in the North Division. The other teams in the North Division were Mizzou, Nebraska, Kansas, Kansas State, and Iowa State. Only 3 of those teams remain. In the South, there was Texas, Texas A&M, and Oklahoma. They're all gone. So they'd be, quote unquote, coming home, but it's like returning in your 30s because you got divorced and you're moving back in with your parents and your dad has turned your bedroom into like his man cave. So like you've returned home, but it is not the home you remember.
If you were George, if you were Deion, wouldn't you say we got to go to the Big 12? Or is there any chance you would say, man, let's stay in the Pac-12. It's more winnable, or from a football competitive standpoint? I just don't see. I'm trying to play devil's advocate and look at the case for staying in the Pac-12. I just don't know if there is one. That's why I think
Pac-12
the
more
Pac-12
winnable?
is dead. That's why I don't think. Oh, is it winnable? Not with Oregon
No,
and
I don't think
Washington in it.
more
But if
winnable.
they bounce,
Yeah,
then it is.
Well, yeah, for sure.
Currently, the way it sets up, your competition, if you stay in the Pac-12 to win a conference championship, is going up against Oregon and Washington after USC and UCLA leave. In the Big 12, your toughest competition to win a conference championship after Texas and Oklahoma leave is what?
Well, also Utah.
And Utah, correct.
Right.